Walters is the spot in Navy Yard to watch college football. And yet again this season, it's the spot for Florida State football. The Noles play at 3:30 today. Walters has plenty of TVs, both inside and out.
Swinging a fly ball right field toward the line. That's going to drop in, a base hit. Cruz has to chase it. Lindor around second, heading for third. They're going to wave him home. Cruz a little trouble picking it up, and Lindor will score standing without a play as the throw dribbles in through the cutoff man, and the catcher Jorge Alfaro up the third base line to retrieve it. Alonso is at first. Lindor's in the dugout, and the Mets leading 1-0.
I mean, it kind of made me rush it a little bit. Yeah, I mean, usually doesn't happen.
Now he delivers. Lile lines one into right center. There's another base hit. Bell rumbles around third, and Siri misplays it. It rolls by him to the fence. Lile keeps on running. He loses his helmet, scoots into third, stopping there. 4-1 Nats, and the Boo Birds are out here at Citi Field.
Lyle hit it so hard that he has tied the national single-season record set by Denard Span with his 11th triple of the year, and he's done it basically in half a season. This is 84th game.
The 2-1 pitch. Soto hits a high, towering fly ball deep center. Jacob Young's going back. He's at the warning track. He's at the fence. He climbs the wall. It's gone. Juan Soto launches a 3-run homer to straightaway center field. And now the Mets are leading it 8-4.
And welcome to Nats Chat, along with MassonSports.com Nationals insider Mark Zuckerman, who was at Citi Field in New York City. I'm Al Galdi, host of the Al Galdi podcast. It is official. The Nats will have a worse record for this regular season than they had in going 71-91 in each of the previous two regular seasons. Friday night, a 12-6 loss at the New York Mets in Game 1 of a 3-game series, dropping the Nats to 62-92. This was the Nats' 5th consecutive loss. The game also gave the Nats a run differential of minus 201. They have crossed the threshold of a minus 200 run differential. This installment of Nats Chat brought to us by Table to Mat, which you can count on for all of your nutrition and personal training needs. Table to Mat offers virtual and in-person nutrition services and personal training to the DMV area. You can email Table to Mat directly through the website tabletomat.com. That's the word table, the number 2, MAT.com. You could call Table to Mat 240-388-2206. Coming up on the show, starting pitcher Mitchell Parker, no longer a starting pitcher, at least for this season. He has been demoted to the bullpen. Also, starting pitcher Josiah Gray is done his minor league rehab assignment. What is next? Daylen Lile, he had yet another triple. This run of triples by Daylen Lile really is something. C.J. Abrams had a 2-run homer and an RBI double. The Nats offense on Friday night was good, but the Nats defense was not good. The Nats pitching was not good. The Mets now have won 4 of their last 5 games, but this is off the Mets having lost 29 of their previous 43 games. Mark, the Mets are fighting for their postseason lives. This series is a big series for the Mets. A rough start to the series for the Nats.
It's a huge series for the Mets. They desperately need it. And Cincinnati won on Friday night. Arizona's still playing as we record this. So the Mets had to win to maintain the 2-game lead in the wildcard race. Did you know, not to go off topic too much here, did you know coming into this game at least, the Mets over their last 84 games were just 34-50, the 3rd worst record in the National League. The only teams worse in the National League since mid-June are the Nationals and the Rockies. And the Mets are the next on that list. And yet here they are still, in position at the moment to make it to the postseason. So this is a huge series for them, a big game for them. The Nats come out and take the lead 4-1 with some impressive at-bats there in the 3rd inning. And then it all fell apart in the 4th. And to me, I know there were pitching issues, but to me, the story of this game is the defense. It was ugly. And it's not just the errors. There were 3 errors officially all in the outfield. But there were a bunch of ground balls, plays not made, just sloppiness out there from a young team with a lot of rookies and a lot of guys with not much more experience than one season in the big leagues, playing on the big stage under the bright lights, and they, quite frankly, did not look ready for it. That, to me, is what stood out more than anything else from this game.
The Nats defense is a big problem. We have talked about that throughout the season. We have talked about that for years. I think one of the big questions for whoever is running Nats baseball operations moving forward with the defense is this. Are these players capable of being good defensively and just need to be coached better, just need to be developed more? Or are these players just not good defensive players? Because there's a difference, right? Like, does this team have the potential as currently constructed to be good defensively? Or is this team just a collection of a bunch of guys who are not good defensively? I think that's a key thing for the next head of baseball ops for the Nats to determine.
I agree. My personal opinion, I think there are a couple of guys that may be lost causes as far as defense is concerned. And that's mostly those who've been here for a few years now. And you kind of have enough of a sample to gather what they are and what they're not. And there's always the ability to improve, but there is a ceiling. At some point, you can only go so high, and they're just never going to get past that point. I think there are several others who, with work and good coaching and just experience, will get better at it. I think Dylan Cruz, I think we've seen enough to know that he has the ability to be a really good defensive outfielder. He committed 2 errors in this game. They were sloppy errors. They're base hits to right field. And it appeared from my vantage point that he's looking up to make the throw before he secures the ball. Everybody knows what happens when you do that. He bobbles it. Guy gets an extra base. They both wound up scoring. Same thing happened to James Wood in left field. So I do think some of these guys, especially the younger ones, with good coaching, with experience, with hard work, can get better. I think there are some others, and we talked about them. We know who they are, the ones that are probably just what they are at this point as a defensive player. And it's up to the organization to decide, do you live with that? Do you try a different position? Or do you say it's time to move on? Those will definitely be questions. But it's very discouraging to see it still happening like it did in this game. And I got to be honest, it was really disturbing to me to hear Miguel Cairo just brush it off again, saying, these things happen. They're playing hard. They're fighting.
Sometimes happens, these guys have been playing their butt off, and it was a fight. We battled into the end. Didn't come our way, but, it happens. It happens, and I know they're going to come back tomorrow and they're going to fight again.
This happens way too much. It's one thing if he's just saying that publicly, doesn't want to criticize them. I really hope behind the scenes he's being harder on them. I don't know if he is or isn't, but the continued mistakes out there lead me to believe that they're not being hard on them, because it doesn't feel like there's any accountability for guys when they make fundamental mistakes like they do on an almost nightly basis.
Well, the good news is we probably have about a week left of Miguel Cairo as the skipper for this team, and then a whole lot of change is going to be coming. Nothing personal against Miguel Cairo, but major change is needed for this team. So, yeah, Dylan Cruz in this game. He is an starting right fielder and number 6 batter, 1 for 4 with a single, but 2 fielding errors. So the first of which came in a Mets 1-run first, the second of which came in a Mets 1-run third. James Wood, another hideous game. This is becoming sad to see how great he was earlier this year and how his season is ending in such a bad way. Wood on Friday night as the Nats starting left fielder and number 1 batter, 0 for 4, 2 strikeouts, committed a fielding error in the Mets' 6-run fourth. And that fourth inning was a nightmare of an inning, to be sure. The thing is, though, the Nats in this game offensively actually had one of their more efficient offensive games in a while, maybe of the season. 6 runs on just 8 hits. 5 of the 8 hits were extra base hits. The Nats had a homer, a triple, 3 doubles, and 3 singles. Went 3 for 7 with runners in scoring position. Worked 2 walks. We have not seen this kind of offensive efficiency from the Nats often this season, and so I did want to give him credit for that. C.J. Abrams is the Nats starting shortstop and number 2 batter, 2 for 4 with a 2-run homer and an RBI double. Good to see that. Robert Hassel III, who did not start in this game. Why would he? Top of the 9th, a pinch one-out double. And Daylen Lile, the onslaught of triples from Daylen Lile rolls on. He is the Nats starting DH and number 4 batter, went 1 for 4 with an RBI triple. He and the Nats 4-run third, had a 2-out RBI triple to the right center field gap to put the Nats up 4-1. The triple, his 11th, tying the record for most triples by a Nats player in a regular season since the franchise moved to Washington, D.C. Man, the triple. Daylen Lile is making the triple as routine as the single with how he's hitting these triples. It's crazy. And as we've discussed, These are not, fluky triples. This was a legitimate triple that Daylen Lile laced to that right center field gap. He continues to be so impressive as a batter.
He ripped that ball so much so that Jose Siri, the center fielder, who was getting it from the Boo Birds in Flushing all night long for a variety of reasons, he couldn't get to the ball quick enough. He took a bad angle, but I don't even know if a good angle would have made the difference for him to get to it. And that was just one of several moments that the crowd was booing him. This is not just Daylen Lile's 11th triple of the season, which ties Denard Span's club record for a single season. It's his 7th in September. Think about that. 7 triples in 18 games. Who does that in the year 2025? Maybe 1897, you would see that kind of thing, or 1913 from Ty Cobb. I mean, who hits 7 triples in the span of 18 games? And as you said, they're almost in every case completely legitimate. It's 11 triples now in only 84 big league games. Remarkable that he is doing this. You hope this is a sign of more to come. I mean, I would hate for this to be some kind of flash in the pan and he never does this again. But my God, if he turns into like a consistent 15 triples a year kind of guy, what a weapon that is to have in your lineup. What a wonderful development for a team that has needed positive developments in the second half of the season. So that was great to see. And just across the board, really good at bats from them in that third inning. First 2 innings against Brandon Sproat, nothing. 0 for 6, 3 strikeouts. To their credit, they picked up on some things. They made some adjustments. They started to work the count. The bottom of the lineup was able to get on base and set the table. And then the big boys in the middle of it, double, triple. Good on them. And then the Abrams home run. Now, they did nothing after the 5th inning against the rest of the Mets bullpen, but they did enough offensively, you would think, to win a ball game, and they didn't win this game because of the pitching and the defense.
Yeah, the Nats up 4-1 after 2.5 innings and then end up getting outscored the rest of the game 11-2. Not good. It's funny the Nats are facing the Mets. When it comes to triples, one of the all-time seasons in terms of a batter hitting triples, this has always stuck with me. Lance Johnson for the 1996 Mets, 21 triples. And I remember being just like floored by that. Like, wow, 21 triples by a player. Here you have Daylen Lile now with 11 in basically half of a season. I don't know to what extent you can count on a guy being great at hitting triples season in and season out, but the fact that these are legitimate triples, look, maybe he hits more doubles next season, whatever the case may be, but he's hitting well. He's been really impressive as a batter, and that just has been so encouraging, and hopefully it rolls on. I mean, to me, this is, 2022 Joey Meneses-esque in terms of a guy just surging over the final 2 months of a season, and, like you said, you just got to hope that it continues, but cannot say enough good things about Daylen Lile.
Swing for the fences this summer and hire Table to Mat for all your nutrition and personal training needs. Being healthy and having fun do not have to be mutually exclusive. Table to Mat specializes in making healthy lifestyles enjoyable and sustainable. Are you experiencing headaches, stomach discomfort, or want to lose weight? Find out how your food choices and exercise impact how you feel physically and mentally. We offer virtual and in-person nutrition services and personal training to the DMV area. With over a decade working in our fields, we bring experience and passion to help you be the best version of yourself. Check us out at tabletomat.com, calling us at 240-388-2206, or emailing us at laura@tabletomat.com for more info. That's the word table, the number 2, MAT.com.
Listen, life's all about leveling up. Whether you're handling business on the field or kicking it in your zone, you like to celebrate with cigars that match the moment. That's why you should link up with Famous Cigars to bring you a wild deal. Right now, you can grab 8 premium cigars for just $8. You heard that right. 8 top-rated cigars at $1 a stick. Top quality brands like Oliva, Romeo y Julieta, and Davidoff. Hand-picked just for you and worth over $80. Hit up famouscigars.com/cam and lock in this exclusive deal. While you're there, Check out their insane selection of premium cigars, all shipped fresh and fast from their massive 20,000 square foot humidor. That's half a football field. Famous Cigars has been in the game since 1939 and still family owned. So celebrate every win with the folks at Famous. 8 cigars for $8. FamousCigars.com/Cam.
This will be the 71st pitch now for Andrew Alvarez. Here it comes, swinging a ground ball toward third by the diving DeYoung up the left field line. Nimmo around third, he will score. Wood goes to track the ball down deep in the corner. Marte zooms around third, he scores no problem, and it's a tie game 4-4 on the Alvarez ground ball double up the left field line.
Andrew Alvarez, he had been impressive as a Nats starting pitcher at the major league level so far. Things did not go well on Friday night. Alvarez in this 12-6 loss at the Mets officially allowed 6 runs, 4 earned in 3 1/3 innings. He gave up 7 hits, which were a double, and 6 singles. He issued a walk and a hit by pitch. He did record 4 strikeouts, but he over 81 pitches through 45 strikes. 36 balls. He was not good, but I tell you, if there's such a thing as allowing 6 runs, 4 earned in 3 1/3 innings and deserving better, or at the very least not pitching as poorly as that line suggests, this might have been it, because as we discussed, the defense was not good in this game, and it wasn't just about the errors. I mentioned 6 of the 7 hits being singles given up by Alvarez. He got victimized by the variance of the batted ball in this game.
This is a remarkable thing. The 7 hits that he gave up, only 3 of them had an expected batting average higher than 260. Okay, this is 6 of the 7 are ground balls. As we said, a bunch of them are singles. Yes, some of it's bad defense, some of it's just well-placed ground balls, and he did deserve better. It wasn't great. He pointed out how he was falling behind in the count way too much, and that drove the pitch count up and put him in some bad situations, and it forced him out of the game early. And I think that's what he felt worst about, is that he had handed over to the bullpen already, so quickly into the 4th inning and asked that much of them to finish it out. But if it's possible to come out of this somewhat encouraged from a game that you gave up 6 runs in 3 1/3, and it's only 4 earned, I actually do feel that this was by far the toughest challenge that he's faced so far in his 4 big league starts, both in terms of the lineup he was going up against and the environment in front of a huge crowd at Citi Field on a Friday night in a pennant race. And while he didn't excel in it, he looked better to me than I would have guessed he would. I thought Andrew Alvarez was going to get exposed in this game in a way that we had not seen yet. And while the results definitely were worse than anything else that he has done, I thought the process and just the way it looked was not nearly as bad as that. And I do come out of it somewhat encouraged by it, to think to myself, he wasn't completely overwhelmed by the situation. And I think that's actually a good sign.
Yeah, I mean, he has been overall good. I mean, his previous 3 opponents since being promoted from AAA-Rochester, the Miami Marlins, the Chicago Cubs, the Pittsburgh Pirates. So 2 out of those first 3 opponents underwhelming in the Marlins and Pirates. So he faced one of the big boy clubs in the Mets. And, like we said, the line wasn't good, but he pitched better than that final line would suggest. The Nats bullpen in this game, another rough outing. We've been talking about this. The Nats bullpen lately has come back down to earth. 5 Nats relievers officially combined to allow 6 runs in 4 2/3 innings. PJ Poulin officially allowed 2 runs in 2/3 of an inning. He and a Mets 6-run 4th faced 4 batters, got 2 outs, gave up a 1-out, 3-run homer by Juan Soto to center field for an 8-4 Mets lead. The homer going to projected 419 feet per StatCast. Sauron Lau, he tossed a 2/3 of a scoreless inning. He in the bottom of the 5th faced 3 batters and got 2 outs. And I do believe it is Lau, not Low. I did some research on that. I do believe L-A-O is pronounced Lau. Connor Pilkington, he faced 4 batters, got 3 outs, including 2 swinging strikeouts. Jackson Rutledge allowed 1 run in 1 1/3 innings. And Mason Thompson allowed 3 runs in 1 inning. Bottom of the 8th allowed 3 runs on a double, a single, and 3 walks, one of which was intentional. And what was wacky about this, all of this happened off Thompson striking out the Mets' first 2 batters in that bottom of the 8th inning. So he looked good, and then it just completely came apart at the seams. But the big blow was the homer given up by Poulin to Soto. That just made that 4th inning just a complete debacle, a 6-run 4th, and the Nats' lead in this game evaporated.
Miguel Cairo makes the decision to pull his starter Alvarez with 1 out in the 4th, and he's not going to let him face the Mets lineup a 3rd time. There are lefties coming up, and Lindor's a switch hitter, but you want a lefty to face him, and then obviously Soto. So he's going to go to one of his many left-handed relievers, and he goes with Poulin. Well, the results were, far worse than anything that Alvarez might have done himself as well. That made it extremely frustrating. Look, Juan Soto is one of the best hitters in the world. I don't have to tell you that, or any of you listening out there. We know that. We have seen him do this many times off pitchers, both good and bad. But to see it all fall apart that quickly like that was very disheartening. And it kind of knew the game was over. I know the Nats came back. They got it to 8-6, and we're trying to keep this thing a game. But you did feel like at the moment that Soto ball landed just below the Big Apple in center field, that was your ball game right there, even though it was only the fourth inning. We're seeing the bullpen come back down to earth. I'm not shocked by that. You hoped that some group of them could keep this up, and maybe they will in the long run. But I think we also have to acknowledge that the odds of all these previously unknown arms, most of them rookies, some of them from in-house, some of them coming from other organizations, that they weren't going to keep it up the way they were there for a little while. You hope they do come out of this with a couple of good arms that can be part of this for the long term, but you also acknowledge that they're not all going to be that, and we're starting to see some evidence of that.
The other thing with Juan Soto in this game, and he had a big game on Friday night, another stolen base, 34 stolen bases for Juan Soto. I don't know how many people listening are aware of that. 34 stolen bases, 42 home runs. He has an outside shot at a 40-40 season. You think about that with Juan Soto. That is something that he has 34 stolen bases here.
He always said he wanted to be a higher stolen base guy, and I'm looking at his numbers now when he was with the Nats. The most he ever had was 12, and that was in 2019. But remember, that's pre-rule changes, when 12 was a pretty good total, relative to the rest of the league. And he did that at age 20, and obviously the World Series year, and that was a 34-homer, 12 stolen base season. Nothing wrong with that. But he has always said that he wants to be able to do this. He's been around a long time. He's still only 26 years old. Will turn 27 late in October. Credit to him that he's found another way to be productive. He's now hit 40-plus homers, driven in over 100 runs in back-to-back seasons, both of them in New York, adding the stolen bases to the total. For all that talk earlier in the year of, Juan Soto is overrated, he's not worth the money, the numbers in the end are going to suggest that I don't know if anybody's worth that much money, but the numbers in the end are going to suggest that he was not a bad signing for the Mets. He is still one of the very best offensive players in baseball, and he's added a whole new element to it with his base running.
Yeah, and it's funny, even with the Mets struggling for a while now, Soto's numbers have been coming up. Like, he has really gotten going over these last few months, and he's having another big season.
The Nats Chat end-of-season podcast party will be at Walters at 7 p.m. on Friday night, October 10th. Spread the word among your friends. We're aiming for our highest attendance yet to celebrate our 5th season of coverage. Walters is located across the street from the ballpark.
Hey Nats Chat, here to tell you about Babbel. Not sure if you're aware, but this upcoming spring is going to be a busy one across the sport, as in addition to Cactus and Grapefruit League play, there will be the World Baseball Classic from March 5th to the 17th. Now, a few years ago, my wife and I, we flew down to South Florida. One day we saw the Nats play in West Palm, and the next day we went and saw Nicaragua play down in Miami. It was a heck of a lot of fun, and one of the things that worked well was that her and I like to practice Spanish, so it made it more of an authentic experience sitting in the stands. If you too want such an experience, then I recommend checking out Babbel. In addition to Spanish, they also offer Brazilian Portuguese if you want to root for Brazil in the WBC, or if you are really into the Netherlands squad, Babbel offers Dutch. Babbel is a great way to engage with native speakers who can help you nail those pronunciations as you work on the language. With over 16 million subscriptions sold, Babbel's 14 award-winning languages are backed by a 20-day money-back guarantee. Get up to 55% off at Babbel.com/NatsChat. That's spelled BABBEL.com/NatsChat.
Mitchell threw, I think, 30 starts in the big leagues, 29 last year. Going in the bullpen, it might be a little different, but, give a chance for him to throw less and help us, it would be a big help over there in the bullpen coming, from there.
All right, some Nats news prior to the game. Mitchell Parker, no longer a member of the Nats rotation, demoted to the bullpen for the rest of the season. Clearly, the performance merits this, and you guys got to talk to Parker, and he seemed to say the right things and, take ownership of why this is in fact the case now, him having been demoted to the bullpen.
Yeah, he understands why it happened. He made no excuses for it. Acknowledged that the performance just hasn't been good enough, and it's something he's never done before. He's never pitched out of the bullpen at any stage of baseball. I don't think this is necessarily the Nationals saying, okay, you're now a reliever. This is just to finish out the year. Again, we don't know who's calling the shots next year. Miguel Cairo is not going to determine that he's a starter or reliever. Maybe Mike DiBartolo will have something to do with that. I don't know that Parker, to be honest, profiles well as a reliever, or at least any better as a starter. What's his biggest issue? The first inning? Well, first inning as a reliever comes later in the game. Sometimes you're entering with runners on base. We know he doesn't do great out of the stretch. So I don't think this was a move made for strategic reasons because you think it's going to turn his season or turn his career around. This was a case of they had 6 starters. They needed him to get through the doubleheader against the Braves. They don't need it down the stretch. And Andrew Alvarez, Friday night's outing notwithstanding, has done enough to say that you want to see more of him. And so he'll get another start here before the season's over. My guess, we see Parker once or twice, probably in a multi-inning, long relief situation before the season's over. It's really them saying, Mitchell, your job's done for the year. Go hang out in the bullpen. We might use you in a blowout here or there, and we'll regroup after the season to figure out where we're going in 2026.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about him not at all being a strikeout pitcher, and usually when that's the case, you don't profile well as a reliever. I mean, I've talked about this. His ERA is higher than his strikeouts per 9 innings, a 5.85 ERA, a 5.74 strikeouts per 9 innings. That is rough for a starter or reliever, but, as a reliever, that is not what you're looking for, obviously. Meantime, Josiah Gray. So he has made his final minor league rehab assignment. We have been discussing for a while now, will he pitch at the major league level? We're down to basically a week left in the Nats season. What do you think the thinking is right now regarding whether we'll see Josiah Gray at the major league level in the coming days?
As they've been saying all along, they were just going to take this thing start to start. And once he got through them all, they'll regroup, they'll evaluate, and they'll decide how they want to proceed. The good news, the results have been good. He is not giving up runs in there, and he got his 45 pitches in, made it into the 3rd inning in this case. Now, he walked 3, struck out 2, but by all counts is healthy, so that's good. There's nowhere left for him to pitch in a minor league game. The AAA season ends this weekend. Nobody else plays next week, so if he pitches again, it has to be in the big leagues. They're going to make that decision whether they think it's worth it or not. As I've mentioned a few times before, they don't think it's necessary. They're confident that he can come into spring training next year, healthy, ready to go, whether he makes another start or not. It would purely be for, I think, peace of mind and to help him have a nice moment to complete the comeback and feel like, hey, I've done it. I've made it all the way back. I pitched in the big leagues again following Tommy John surgery. Now I can go into next season mind fully at ease and go for it. The one concern I would have, and I think this, I would not be surprised if this is what dissuades them from having him do it. I guess it's 2 things. One, he's still only thrown 45 pitches. They're not going to let him throw more than 50 in a big league game. So you do that, you take up a roster spot because you can't expand the roster any further. You're only going to get probably 3 innings tops out of him, and you're going to have to burn up other relievers as well during that final series. So there's that. The more concerning thing to me, based on the velocity readings we saw from this start in Rochester, his fastball was only about 90 miles an hour. Now, I'm always hesitant when it comes to AAA radar guns and readings and everything that come from the minor leagues. You don't know how accurate that is. It's not the same equipment as you'd have in the big leagues. But that's a fairly low number. And I don't think it's unexpected. You're making your 3rd rehab start after missing such a long time following major elbow surgery. And it doesn't mean he's not going to have the velocity in a better place come next year. But do you want to risk throwing him out there in a big league game, throwing 90 miles an hour with all the extra emotion that's going to come with that, probably only able to go 2 or 3 innings just for a feel-good moment, which may not even turn out to be feel-good, and potentially something bad could happen? I'm going to guess they're going to lean on the side of caution here and say it's not worth it. They might sit down and say, yes, let's go ahead and do it. That would be wonderful if it happens. Wonderful if he does well in it. But I'm leaning right now towards thinking that they probably will shut him down and say, job well done. You did it. You made it back. Go get ready for spring training. You're a big part of this team in 2026.
Nats have 8 games left. The final 2 games of this 3-game series at the Mets, then a 3-game series at the Atlanta Braves Monday through Wednesday, off day Thursday, and then 3 games against the Chicago White Sox at Nationals Park next weekend. If Gray does start a game, it would be one of those games against the White Sox. Is it safe to say that?
Yeah, I think so. He's been on a 6-day schedule in the minors. I don't think they'd force the issue to get him in there on Wednesday in Atlanta. And if you're going to do this, you want to do it at home. You're not going to fly him to Atlanta to pitch in one game. So, yeah, I think it would be for the final series. And, it also depends who else do they still want to see. I think Mackenzie Gore's lined up for that one. I think Cade Cavalli would have another start as well. There might be more to be gained from those than from getting a couple innings out of Josiah Gray. We'll find out here probably in the next couple of days as they make this decision. But I would not be surprised if they say, no reason to do this. We got through it. He's healthy. Let's go home happy for the winter and regroup and come back in spring training.
There's also this, since we last spoke on the podcast, yet another reported candidate for Nats head of baseball operations, Boston Red Sox executive vice president and assistant general manager Eddie Romero, that per multiple reports that came out on Thursday morning. So the list of reported candidates continues to grow. And this is interesting. When the news will break of who the next head of baseball ops is, when the formal announcement will be, I do wonder, might we get the announcement, maybe even the press conference during that final series of the season against the White Sox? Do the Nats wait until right after the end of their season? Is it maybe that the news breaks that weekend and then the formal announcement comes that Monday? I think the mechanics of this will be interesting, but it does seem like we are getting pretty close to the Nats figuring out who's going to be running things moving forward.
My sense is that in their perfect world, they make the decision before the end of the year and have that introductory press conference as quickly as possible after the season is over. Now, MLB doesn't like major press conferences on the days that playoff games are taking place. So that probably means you either have to do it Monday, that very first day, or Friday of that week is the day off for the playoffs in between the wild card round and the division series. So that would be the alternative. They're not going to force it if they really think they need more time for whatever reason. But I think the sense I get is that that's their preferred plan, is to make a decision. I could see it breaking sometime next weekend, and then they have the official press conference the day after. As we know, that's clearly the most important move they have to make, but it's just the first of a bunch of moves with the manager, the coaching staff, the front office. If it's somebody new, especially from outside the organization, there are a ton of front office decisions to now make. Who's being retained? Who's being let go? Who else is going to be brought in? You've got to assemble a full staff and decide how you want to go about this. So there really should be, and I know there is, motivation to get that done as soon as possible. Not that it isn't important. It's hugely important, but you also need to be ready to move on to all the other items of business that you need to take care of. October is going to be an extremely busy month for the organization. There's going to be a lot of hires, a lot of decisions, some of them gaining a lot of attention, some of them not getting as much attention, but still important in so many ways.
Do you think the presser would happen during that series against the White Sox, or do you think the Nats would wait until after the end of the season? And part of why I'm asking is traditionally the head of baseball ops does like a season ending session with you guys during that last series at home. So it's kind of odd. If Mike DiBartolo doesn't get the job, he could be doing an end of season state of the team type session with you guys on, say, Saturday or Sunday. And then come Monday, his replacement is announced. So this could make for some odd dynamics in the coming days.
Yeah, my understanding is that the tentative plan is for DiBartolo to have an end of season session with us that weekend. Obviously, things can change based on how this is all going to play out. This is just speculation on my part, but I think it would, be logical and make sense. If he's the guy for the job and they make that decision in time, maybe they do the big formal thing that weekend before one of the final games. If it's not him, I think you do wait. I don't think you introduce somebody new that weekend as the season's wrapping up. I think it's clear that the season is over. The axe falls. You announce you're making whatever changes you're making, and starting on Monday, the day after the season, it's a new era of Nationals baseball. Here's the person in charge, and they're going to be in charge of making a whole lot of decisions that come after that.
Well, we just mentioned Eddie Romero of the Red Sox being a candidate to run Nats baseball operations. We have a shout out to deliver from New England. This shout out goes to Nathan from his loving wife, Emma, in New England. Nathan, a huge Nats fan. Emma roots for the Red Sox, but Emma, a great sport about it. And the Nats always get priority on their living room TV, no matter how infuriating they are. We thank Emma for that. We salute Nathan for his Nats fandom. And, it's interesting. There's a lot of this in sports where, one person is a fan of one team and the other person is a fan of another team in that same sport. Look, I'm married to someone from Pittsburgh, so she's a massive Steelers fan. I am not. I am a Washington Commanders fan. But you do get a lot of that. And good for Nathan living in New England and being a Nationals fan. That's not easy to do. So a salute to him.
And getting control of the TV. I mean, that's impressive to pull that off. As someone who's also part of a mixed marriage, as I call it, mixed sports marriage, as it is, I know what this is like. It's fun if you have the right attitude about it, but it can get a little heated at times when your two teams are going up against each other. A salute to all those married couples out there who have to deal with that. But Nats fan in New England, I'm guessing there aren't a whole lot, but maybe there's enough of them to take control, and maybe one of these days we'll get that series, a World Series between the Nationals and Red Sox. Good luck handling that one.
That would be nice. Keep fighting the good fight, Nathan. You tell us what you think. Hit us up on X at Nats_chat. Hit us up on Blue Sky at Nats Chat Podcast. You can email the show, natschatpodcast@gmail.com. And we have a website you could check out too, natschatpodcast.com, at which you can purchase a Nats Chat Podcast t-shirt. All Nationals radio highlights on Nats Chat are courtesy of 106.7 The Fan. For Mark Zuckerman, I'm Al Galdi. We thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you next time on the Nats Chat Podcast.
And the pitch. Breaking ball hit in the air to deep right center by Abrams. Soto going back, way back, looking up, going, and gone. Goodbye into the Nationals bullpen. A 2-run homer for C.J. Abrams, his second extra base hit of the night, with an RBI double back in the third, so 3 runs batted in for him tonight. And the Nationals are back to within 2 here in the top of the 5th inning. It's now the Mets 8 of the Nationals 6.